Today's video is sponsored by the Double Take universe, but don't worry guys, I only do comic books that I personally enjoy and recommend. Now it is in no way affiliated with Skybound or The Walking Dead, but if you do enjoy The Walking Dead, which I'm sure you do because you clicked a video about The Walking Dead, then I'm sure you like zombies, and if you like zombies, then you're going to enjoy the Double Take universe. This is a series of comic books, 10 of them, that tell the stories of other individuals in the Night of the Living Dead universe. Everyone from Secret Service agents to police officers to just kids on their spring breaks. And if you go right now to their website, you can get all of issues 1 and issues 2 for free. And as of today, issue 3 has come out and you can pick that up at your favorite digital retailer or at your local comic book store. That's it guys, I just wanted to let you guys know about the Double Take universe and the fact that their universe is currently building and you can get in on the ground level of this. Now, let's go ahead and talk about The Walking Dead. This story is called The New Beginning, and it takes place after an all-out war started with Negan, and it's 2 years later. Rick is now in charge of a lot of things. So let's find out how all of our favorite people in The Walking Dead universe are doing.
It's been 2 years since the world you knew in the universe of The Walking Dead. This is The New Beginning. The Walking Dead is massive, so I wanted to get on board with the latest storylines that might not match the show. This begins at issue 125 when the series has jumped 2 years into the future, following the events of Alexandria in Negan's war. Magna, how much longer? A man asks a woman sitting on the roof of a trailer. Shh, you hear that? It sounds like an ocean and it's getting closer. It's just the birds. We could cover a few more miles easily. And that's when they see it. A walker coming out of the woods. Yumiko takes aim, but Magna tells everyone to get down low. More and more walkers begin coming out of the forest, and the group begins to worry about their horses. But that's the least of their worries, as the trailer they are on begins to get pushed over by the hordes of walkers. Then it begins to tip, and it falls over, throwing them all onto the ground. They begin to scurry on the ground trying to get away, but the walkers begin clawing at their arms, trying to pull them into the horde. And as Magna is about to be bitten, a sword slices off the zombie's head. "On your feet, lady, move!" the man named Paul shouts. Then Magna looks in shock as a series of people are dropping the walkers left and right, and then they tell her to make a break for the wood line while they distract the zombies. They begin dragging the herd towards the east side of the road, and a horn begins going off to get the herd's attention. Once all of the walkers are led away, Magna looks in shock as the man with the sword rides back up to her. "Let me tell you how this goes. You turn your weapons into us and we'll take you back to our place. It's for our safety. But you are more than welcome to decline and we can go our separate ways. Are you gonna tell us where this place is and what it offers? You'll see when you get there. It's a larger group, but I won't go into details you could use against us." The man walks over to Eugene to ask him how moving the herd is coming, and Eugene explains that the herd should miss the kingdom by 10 miles. And once it does, they can all head back home and introduce these new people to Rick. The next morning, a man gets out of bed and he checks his knee before putting on his brace. He then grabs his cane to help him walk to the bathroom where his prosthetic arm is hanging, and he puts it on before walking back into the bedroom where his girlfriend, Andrea, wakes up. She asks, "Will you let Carl do it?" And Rick tells her, "I don't know." And then he walks into the kitchen where Carl walks in and he asks to speak with his father. The right half of Carl's face is now horribly scarred and useless, so he now wears a blacked out lens on his eyeglasses. Rick tells him that they can talk later, he promises, and then he steps outside to an amazing sight. A fully functional town, garden, and community in the middle of the end of the world. He walks around checking in on the citizens, and everyone knows who Rick is. He is the man that stood up to Negan, stopped the war, and saved the day. He is famous. He goes to meet the newcomers that Paul brought back, and he welcomes them to Alexandria. And Magna explains who her group is. She's Magna. That's Kelly, Luke, Connie, and Yumiko. They've been traveling the country on the top of their trailer, which has been keeping them safe. So Rick invites them to stay in Alexandria. After a few weeks, they'll get their weapons back if they prove trustworthy. Magna and her group seem iffy about that, but Rick explains it's to keep everyone safe. He then heads back home where he runs into Carl again. Carl wants to talk to his father. Carl wants to become an apprentice for the blacksmith on the top of the hill, and Rick tells him no, it's too far. "I wouldn't feel safe having you there, Carl." He then looks down. "This is hard for me, Carl. After everything we've been through, you are my son, but I'll think about it." He then walks back into his bedroom where Andrea tells him telling Carl he'd think about it is a big step, unless he lied to his son. Rick tells her he didn't lie, he'll think about it. But the hilltop is a day's ride away, a day away! He's not your little boy anymore, our little boy. He's not our little boy anymore. And then Rick leans back against Andrea. The next day, Rick helps Eugene with his problem with women while they get the bakery up and running, and Andrea questions Magna's group about who they've seen in their journeys. Life is good in Alexandria, but outside of Alexandria, two men are riding in uncharted areas, Ken and Marco. They ride deeper into the woods where they shouldn't be until one of them runs into walkers and falls off of his horse. As the walker is growing closer to Ken, Marco pulls out a sword and drives it through the walker's head. "You're an idiot, you know that?" He then pulls the man onto his horse and they begin to ride off. Maggie's going to kill you when she finds out you lost a horse. Back in Alexandria, Rick takes Carl aside and he tells him to save his strength. They have a long journey ahead of them tomorrow. Carl can't believe it. His father is going to let him. Meanwhile, Magna's group doesn't trust this. They can't have a perfect place like this. These people must be doing something to make this happen. The next morning, Rick and Carl load up their supplies to bring to Hilltop, and they get ready to leave. As Carl is getting ready to leave, Anna walks over and hands him a letter. "Can you read this when you get to the top?" Carl is a little taken back by this, but he tells her, "I promise, Anna." As they leave, Rick jokingly asks Carl, "Who's your girlfriend?" And Carl tells him, "Shut up." They ride off eating lunch until Rick finally gets Carl to talk about Anna. She's just a girl that Carl met while working in the orchard. Before Carl can go deeper into it though, they see 4 walkers coming at them. Rick gets down off the wagon and Carl grabs a gun just in case. Then Rick proceeds to bury his hatchet into a walker's head over and over, and as one walker goes in to bite Rick, Carl gets the shot ready, but Rick tells him not to do it. Don't alert any more of them. He then buries his hatchet into another's head. The walkers are getting closer and closer, and Carl takes it on himself to open fire, dropping 2 of them. That grabs the attention of the local patrol. He rides up to see that it's the famous Rick Grimes. "I'm so sorry, sir. This area was cleared moments ago." "Get off your horse," Rick demands. So the man gets down and Rick hits him over the head with his cane multiple times. "Are you going to lie to me now? Your area is 5 miles. 5 miles! You could do that in no time at all. This road is a main artery between our communities. My son and I could have died. I'm sorry, sir, I was distracted. Tell me where you live. I'm reporting this." "The kingdom, sir." "This better be your first report." And with that, Rick and Carl load up and leave. Back with our 2 guys on the outskirts of Alexandria, the uncharted area. They ride on until one of them gets injured, too injured to keep riding. They then climb down hoping to take a moment off of the horse, but the horse rides off, leaving them to walk. And that's when they hear the walkers creeping up on them. But back in Alexandria, Magna and her group sneak into a house and down into a basement where they find a man all locked up. The man behind the bars, Negan, calls out to them, "Please help me, these people are animals." Magna can't believe her eyes, but she doesn't buy it. This man is well fed and taken care of. "Can't blame me for trying," Negan says, and Magna and her group leave him in his cell. He sits down. Damn it. Marco and Ken keep pushing along, but the walkers are getting closer, so Marco has an idea and he drags Ken into a ditch nearby where they both wait in hopes that the walkers will just walk past. It seems to be working, but the most terrifying thing ever happens while they're in that ditch. The walkers seem to be talking, asking, "Where did they go?" The next day, Rick and Carl finally arrive at Hilltop. Maggie steps out and welcomes them to her humble community. She walks Rick around and the people of the Hilltop are in awe at the famous Rick Grimes visiting their community. Maggie explains that she has things under control, though the former Hilltop leader Gregory is still a pain. And she walks Rick over to meet her son, Herschel Green. While Carl goes to visit Earl and show him a wood carving that he made, Earl introduces Carl to his new apprentice, Roland. Heartbroken, Carl heads back to his father, but as he's walking back, some of the folks at the Hilltop are bringing Marco in. He was found trying to make his way back, and once he finally comes to, he tells everyone that they need to go back for Ken. He was injured, so Marco had to leave him. Then, he remembers exactly what happened. There were so many of them. The whispers. I can't get it out of my head. The dead were speaking. Maggie decides to send Dante and a few others to find Ken near where they found Marco. And while they form up for the journey out to find Ken, Carl goes back into town where he runs into Sophia. All of them go to the community gathering that night for some food, and it's there that Carl explains to Earl what he came to Hilltop for. Earl just laughs at him. Why can't he have 2 apprentices? Once again, Carl is beaming, and he goes to tell his dad that he'll be staying. Rick asks if he opened the letter from Anna yet, but Carl told him he has had plenty of good news today. He doesn't want a potential bad letter to ruin it. Everything seems to be going all right for Rick, Carl, Maggie, Sophia, and their communities. Except, we still have Ken out there, injured, so the team heads off to track him down. They make their way to the barn where they think they hear Ken, but then the doors break open as the walkers begin to pour out. Back in Alexandria, Andrea heads home to find Magna and her group waiting for her. They want some goddamn answers. The rescue team runs off to kill these walkers one at a time, making a formation and stepping out one at a time to chop up the walkers before walking back into their formation and starting over. It's working, and they're cutting down the massive numbers of walkers coming for them until there's only a few left, and one of the walkers is holding a knife. "That's impossible," the leader says, but they quickly see that this walker is fighting back, dodging and using its blade like a proper weapon. One of the men panics and he tries to run for it, but the walker stabs him in the back. Another man turns around shocked that his friend fell, and he takes another blade to the throat. So the leader panics and he slices off the head of one of those walkers. "What the hell are you?" And then one of them replies to him, holding a sword. "We whisper. The dead don't mind. You'll see. You'll be dead soon yourself. Then you'll see." They go back and forth with their blades until finally he gets his sword deep into the walker's head, killing him, leaving him the only man dead or alive standing. Shocked, he can't believe that they were talking, and then he looks down at one of them with stitching in the back of its head. He begins to yank the stitching off, and he yanks off the top layer of skin, revealing it to be a walker mask made out of human flesh. "Oh God," he exclaims, throwing the head aside, and then another one of the whisperers walks up behind him and puts a shotgun to his head and tells him, "Don't move." As you can see, at this point in the storyline, things are a tad bit different from the show, and I'm hoping you'll stick around and enjoy the Walking Dead storylines with me. I'll see you guys next time right here. I'm Benny the Comicstorian, and make sure you follow me on Twitter at Comicstorian, Instagram at Comicstorian, and you check out our gaming channel, Eligible Monster, for gaming, comic books, and lore.